Welcome to the show. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Yanik. Welcome to the show, sir.
What's up, Rudy? Hey, man.
Hey, man, great to see you again. For our show audience who maybe it's the first time getting to meet you, I want to share a couple background points about you and how cool you are and why they should lean in and listen to today's episode. You're kind of a funny guy in the way where you're like known as a cosmic catalyst, a Maverick mischief, a galactic goofball per se.
Yeah.
But make no mistake about it, you're in the world helping people create more profits, have more fun, and increase their impact. And you have a big background on doing events from as far back as the digital marketing space, doing a mastermind with Underground, and then more recently in your career, leading one of the top masterminds and events for entrepreneurs, the Maverick 1000 Mastermind. So really eager and excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And I got my my astronaut sloth shirt on for you.
Oh yeah, the cosmic sloth. Yeah, one fun fact I want to share about Yanik here, and he is registered to be an early pioneer on Virgin Galactic when they finally get going into space. And actually, one of my childhood dreams was to be an astronaut, and it's on my bucket list to do the same. So
Totally.
Yeah.
I've been a ticket holder for a long time.
Yeah, man. I'll be watching your flight, man. I'll be cheering you on. Actually, I'll mention a quick little story, and then we'll jump into the interview. When I was at the Naval Academy, right before I actually started the Naval Academy, I was at a hotel and I saw Richard Branson with Burt Rutan, I think Scales Composites at the time. They won the X Prize. Like it was the second flight, and they officially met the criteria and they won the prize. Yep. I remember that moment because the reason I went to the academy is I want to be an astronaut. So that moment, I had the thought that kept running in my head, hey, things are going to be different than I thought they were going to be. And I'm sure that was a moment that you'll always remember as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really opened up. They were there. They had already kind of had a handshake deal for licensing the technology, and it's just really interesting because Peter Diamandis, who I'm also friendly with, had created the whole X Prize, and it's just a great way of getting a lot of innovation and people doing interesting things by creating that incentive model, and that really opened up, this commercial space tourism industry, and we'll see where it leads. I think it's such an exciting time.
It is, man. I think we live in one of the most exciting and potentially challenging times in history, but
yeah,
depends on how you approach it. All of it. Yeah. Well, Yanik, love for you to hear, a little bit more about your story, your background for our audience, and kind of how you got into the event business to begin with.
Sure. So came from our family's Russian immigrants came over when I was 3 years old from Russia with my dad, my mom, and my grandmother. My dad had like $256 in his pocket, and kind of very typical immigrant success story. And he ended up very quickly either being fired or he was gonna he was either going to quit or be fired at his job at the hospital center because he was doing some stuff working on the side for doctors. And so he took the path all of us entrepreneurs take, which is this sort of uncharted, who knows what is going to happen, but he did that. And then so I grew up working in a family business. At 14, I was telemarketing, selling my own medical equipment and supplies. At 16, the only way I got a car was actually going out on the road cold calling. And cold calling really sucked. And so it was actually amazing. I had sold an entire surgery center to one of my doctor clients. And he's like, here, you kind of seem like you like this marketing stuff. I'm like, yeah. And he gave me a J. Abraham tape, and it really turned the lights on for me at 17. And just I was just blown away by this idea that you could write a letter or an ad or whatever and have doctors in this case call you or give you money. I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. How do I learn more about this? And I just went deeper and deeper into that and the personal transformation stuff, and just anything I could study about copywriting, direct response. And so I helped grow my dad's business to from a regional player to a national player. And then along the way, had a few doctor clients that started working with me, and they're like, hey, you can help me with our marketing. I'm like, yeah, sure. But realized that consulting didn't have as much leverage as I wanted, and So I ended up starting a publishing company for doctors, helping them grow their practice and kind of answering the phone underneath my desk in my dad's office. And then I finally, got the courage or the wherewithal to go out on my own. And this is right when the internet was starting to really happen. And this is like late 99, early 2000. And I literally 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up with an idea for something called instant sales letters, went to work on it. It was my first $1 million product. And people are like, whoa, how'd you do that? Could you teach me how to do that? Which then turned into me helping other people take their knowledge or information and showing them what I've done to sell things online. And the very first event, which kind of fits into I think our theme, Rudy, is about unique experiences. So I was just turning 30 at the time. I had been in the internet space for a couple of years at this point. And I'm like, oh, it was like a month before my 30th birthday. I'm like, it'd be really fun to run a birthday, we called it Yanik's birthday bash, but I couldn't pull it off in time. I wanted 500 people there. So we made it in January, but my birthday's in September. And so it ended up being at that time, the biggest event for the internet marketing world, and it had little hints. And if you look back, you'll see little hints a lot at different things. And so this was a unique experience, Yanik's 30th birthday bash. So a unique theme. It was $50 to get in. All went to Make-A-Wish Foundation, and so we raised $25,000 for Make-A-Wish, and then we had a very interesting experiential thing there. We even served people birthday cake, like these tiny little slices of birthday cake. Had Mickey Mouse come out and sing me happy birthday. We had like a gag gift birthday contest, but it was a great success, and it was a lot of fun, and that started me on events. So I started from 0 to 500 people.
All for a birthday party.
all for a birthday party. And it was quite interesting, but it's, there's a couple lessons in there, I think.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool, man. Always neat to hear the origin stories. And how you guys started young, and you had to hustle. Your parents were immigrants, and my parents were also immigrants as well. So I can really appreciate that hunger and the necessity, really, right? Because so much of life comes from the need to do something. So thank you for sharing that with us, man. So you got into digital marketing. You started the underground events. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you developed that to a level?
Sure. Yeah. So that first event, that Yanik's 30th birthday bash, I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. It was great to have people in person, and then I can't remember the exact. Actually, I do remember. I didn't remember the year I had the underground. It's actually because my mom had passed 2 days before the very first underground. And in the Jewish faith, you'll bury the person the next day. So it was a lot. That was a lot. And now I would have handled it differently and been even more transparent and shared what was going on. But that was one of those times where, as an entrepreneur, you just do whatever it takes to sort of compartmentalize. And many years later, probably shared that I never even grieved about it, because it was just so go straight into work. It's interesting that that's just coming up right now. But so that was 2008, and what was happening, not 2008, it was 2005. So 2005, what was happening a lot was the exact same speakers on the exact same stages. We're all selling, here's how I make money online. And the biggest way they were making money online was selling, here's how I make money online. And I'm like, okay. So I love this idea of, and I learned it from Earl Nightingale very, very early on, being a 17, 18-year-old driving around with those tapes, and that whole idea of if the crowd is going this way, just go the opposite and you'll be successful. And so it's a really powerful concept about looking at the marketplace and being like, okay, what's happening? How do I go the opposite? And with a very authentic way. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to put on an event that is going to be the complete opposite of all these other ones. We're going to have unknown speakers. We're going to have a spy theme, essentially, because they're unknown. They're not going to be professional speakers. We're going to tell people, hey, these people, they're not going to be polished. They might be very raw around the edges, but they're going to give you the real information about what they're doing to make money online. And so that's how the underground was born. And it was an immediate hit because of the theme, because of the aspect of it. And even the marketing was completely different. It was very spy theme. It'd be we've located this agent, so we gave everyone sort of agent names and played up that spy theme. We had a lot of fun with it too. When people arrived, they got a briefcase, that was locked. They had to sign a cone of silence. People are like, oh, you mean code of silence? I'm like, no, cone of silence. And it's from Maxwell Smart, the get smart, the whole cone of silence thing. So we had a lot of fun with it too. And that's what I love, is you incorporate that fun and the experience part. So they showed up. The hotel that we had in it was quite it had a lot to be desired. It was the oldest hotel in DC at that point, before it got a facelift and turned into the W Hotel, which is really nice now. But it was like there was big pillars in the ballroom, so like some seats you couldn't quite see everything. But we had some really interesting people there. Like, so on that very first stage, Jeff Walker was on that stage before he was Jeff Walker. This guy, Jeff Johnson, who's been, he became fairly big, not quite as big as Jeff Walker. Who else was on that first stage? I don't know. I can't quite remember, but that was the whole idea, right? Like, to bring in these unknown presenters. And then the other thing that we added was we said we're going to provide a $10,000 charity check for the speaker that provides the most useful information for the audience, and let the audience vote on it. And so we kind of get those competitive juices going amongst the speakers. And that was really fun, because now the audience, the speakers are incentivized to provide their best information. The speaker showed up to just hang out with each other. It was really powerful, because they would, I also went out of my way to have like a speaker dinner and really make sure that they felt, honored and appreciated. Because most events that I went to, it's like, you show up, maybe you sell something, maybe you don't, but this was, I didn't even want them to sell anything. Like, it was a completely different kind of event. Some of them did sell something. I'm like, if you want to, let's talk about it. But they had to clear it with me first, so it didn't become this pitch fest, because it was all about the experience. It was all about, this unique high-end event. And then it grew from there. And then we even kept doubling down on, like, we added a celebrity next year, where we had Mini Me, Vern Troyer, show up. We gave away a Mini Cooper. We had the whole entire theme of Austin Powers. And so we had a lot of fun with it. And every year was a different spy theme, like James Bond or Get Smart, or we started scraping the barrel, and there's like Inspector Gadget and all sorts of stuff. But it was fun. And then I had a lot of fun with it. And then we didn't cheap out, because it was all about the experience. And so it was like $40,000-$50,000 on stage design to create something that was really unique, that the speakers would come out of, let's say, a phone booth or something else. And then we'd have these like little hidden things in the stage, where we play little practical jokes on the speakers or whatever the case is. And it just became a very iconic event for 10 years.
Dude, that's so cool, man. Just cool to hear how you thought through it, and really started with the end in mind of creating a unique experience with the whole spy theme thing. That's neat. I wish I would have been around to.
Yeah. It was fun.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it's just, again, that whole idea of like, how do you think differently? So whatever the marketplace is going, like, how do you go that opposite direction? I think is that's the big lesson. And I love questions, right? Like, our questions dictate our answers. So if you can start thinking about, like, what would different look like here in my industry or category, I think that's a huge one.
Yeah. What does different look like in this category, this industry? That's a great takeaway. Thanks for that, man. And so you had wild success with the underground for about 10 years. And then, you as an individual evolved, and your business has evolved as well. In fact, you have a book called Evolved Enterprise.
Yeah, about that journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the journey and how you evolved from the underground to, now, Maverick 1000 and those events, like taking people to Necker Island on an annual basis. That's pretty darn cool. Can you tell us a little bit about that evolution?
Yeah, that is pretty darn cool. It's, it start again with a question, right? So I think of it as like a cosmic alarm clock, and the cosmic alarm clock is kind of like the small voice that can get louder and louder until you either answer it or hit snooze. And so many of us kind of hit snooze on not listening to our heart and what we really want to do. And so for me, it was where everything outside was looking great, making a lot of money, helping a lot of people, driving a hot sports car, good reputation in that space, just everything that you would look at and be like, oh, that guy's, got it figured out. Wonderful family. And then I just asked a really simple question, which is, am I happy? would I be happy doing what I'm doing 10 years from now? And I just, wasn't feeling ultimately happy. So I'm a big journaler. I think it's one of a really incredible foundational success tool for us is to journal and to process feelings and things like that. And so bring more awareness to what's happening. And so in my journal, I got really honest and I was like, yeah, no, but it was hard because I'd show up at events, either speaking or not speaking, like everyone would be like, no matter where I was, someone would be like, dude, Yanik, I don't know, I sell guitar lessons online now. And you made me financially independent. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. But it didn't feel like the ultimate end all. And so in my journal, I created these 3 interconnected circles, which I've since learned is a Venn diagram. And it was a $, a happy face, and a heart. And so that, I'll draw that real fast because it's a great little visual. And where that all intersected is what we called a Maverick entrepreneur. So this is the very rough version of that. Right here is the intersection point. And that was a Maverick entrepreneur. And so I'm like, all right, what would I love to do? I'd love to hang out with other friends of mine that are successful entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs like that. We go off on adventures. We combine it with business. We'll combine it with a charity element, and off we go. And so the first thing that we did was a Baja dune buggy racing trip. And I'm a big fan of, like, you put the stake in the ground and then you go create it, right? Like go figure it out. And so I did that. We had 20 some people show up. It was amazing. Though I ended up losing about $40,000 in that trip. And I'm like, that's okay. And then about $400,000 in, my wife's like, what the hell are you doing? And I didn't really have a great answer for her aside from, I think there's something here. And then, but at the same time, I had been like pulling back and even like shutting down things. Like I shut down my internet mastermind group. I started like just cutting all sorts of stuff that didn't feel like it was in full alignment with what I wanted to do here. And honestly, that was a really tough time. I really had to go back to, I had never, like, before this, I had 7, 8 projects, all hit the 7-figure mark, like super easy. And then this, what I felt like a lot more passion for, I was like, all right, there's something here, but I couldn't quite figure it out. And so I had to go back to my why. And the why was, not building an adventure travel company, but how do we change the way business is played? And then we got really clear on that. And again, questions are huge. So I asked my 111-year-old self, what do I need to know? And using my non-dominant hand, which is my left hand, I wrote, light 1,000 suns who each have the potential to light another 1,000 suns. And it really changed kind of the trajectory of what we're doing with Maverick, changed the name to Maverick 1000 to represent this idea that, that we're lighting suns. And to me, these are entrepreneurs that are aligned with their head, which is their business side, their heart, which is the impact they want to make in the world, and then their higher purpose. Like, so how do we bring all that together? And that to me is the sun. So change that to Maverick 1000. And even like 2012 is this huge shift in what we're doing. It's been 15 years now that we were running Maverick. And 2012, I had been studying the Mayan sort of energies and things going on. And I'm like, all right, we need to go down there for the Mayan calendar change. And my team's like, you're crazy. That's 4 days before Christmas. I'm like, no, I think we really need to go. And then, kudos to them. They figured out this amazing way for us to spend the night in a Mayan village and had different ceremonies with one of the Mayan shaman. And then we went into a Temescal, which is kind of like a sweat lodge, but a Mayan version of it. And long story short, we emerged literally at midnight on the solstice. And the symbolism is that you're going into the womb of the earth to be reborn. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, this is the right, like, you can't plan for something like that. The synchronicity of it is just unbelievable. And so it was really like, all right, we're on the right path here. And so the experiences that we've had with Maverick have been, the essence have always remained that same, like those 3 circles, but we changed the $ to represent a tree, to represent growth. So business growth and evolutionary growth, but then the happy face and the heart have remained the same. And that's kind of the framework that we look at for everything. And whatever we do, there's always those 3 elements that we introduce into everything that we do.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. The intersection of the heart, the money, and what was the third one? It was the
not even money anymore, but tree. So growth, impact, and fun.
Okay.
Business growth or evolutionary growth and yeah, impact and fun. So And I think they're all also interconnected, right? Like the more fun you're having, the more the more your business is going to grow, or the more you're growing, and the more you're growing, the more your business is going to grow, the more you're able to provide and make a difference. And the more you're making a difference, the more you're. So that's what Evolved Enterprise was all about, was actually finding these pieces from well-known celebrities to not so well-known sort of business icons and so forth, who really had a bunch of these pieces that then helped us turn around Maverick and what we're doing, and really lean into the mission and the purpose, which then turn everything around. And that's a key thing too, I think, around what you're doing. So getting to that deep why. So whatever the events are, or the experiences that you're doing, if you can get to that why, and then get your clients, your members, your attendees to get them aligned with that why, that's huge. And there's something more that can happen there.
Yeah, remarkable, man. So congrats on that first event with the Mayan calendar change, 4 days before Christmas, just making it unreasonable.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't the first event. That was a kind of the evolutionary shift of what we were doing, because we had done a lot of stuff before that, but it was working, but not working. We had a lot of people that love what we're doing, and you can tell when people love it, because the identity changes, right? So I've done a lot in building communities, and you want someone to be like, I am a blank, and in our case, it's I am a Maverick, because it's also slightly aspirational. So as you're naming things, you can be thinking about like what would be that kind of aspect. And then there's a lot of ways that we've done. It's actually in Evolved Enterprise. We have a big section on there on community building, and so there are real strategies on how to do that. And I think that's part of the future of you thinking about your experience or event, is not just having it as a one-time thing, but how do we move from transactional to transformative to even transcending what you could be doing in your business or through your event.
Transactional, transformational, transcending. Okay.
Yeah, transcending. Yeah.
Very cool, man. And then tell us a little bit about the events that you've been doing on Necker Island. I know that's now like a well-known, iconic event that you host for high-level entrepreneurs on an annual basis. Like, how did that get started, and how do you go about creating unique experiences that you do on Necker?
Yeah, well, Necker is an incredible canvas and backdrop. It's Sir Richard Branson's private island, and he had always been one of my biggest business heroes. And I had actually written in my ultimate life list, which is kind of like your bucket list, I wrote, have lunch with Richard Branson. And I'm like, that would be fun. And then one of my buddies, Joe Polish, who's amazing connector and runs his own groups and communities, Joe had invited me to go to Necker, so I paid to go, and did that. It was great. And I'm like, Joe, so we're gonna do it again. And he's like, I don't know if I can fill it again. I'm like, well, why don't you and I team up, and I'll fill half, you fill half. And so that's what happened for a couple of years, and then we've taken it over for the last maybe 5-6 years, and really lean even more into those 3 elements: the growth, impact, fun, that we always bring to everything. And so Richard, this is going to be our, I think, 13th event that we're hosting on Necker coming up next year. We've done a couple others like Safari and so forth. And what's really fun is like when, Richard is obviously an incredible business icon, but there's other aspects that you can engage him with that he loves. Like this last year, we had him involved in a prank for one of our members, and it was his birthday, and I won't reveal what the prank was, but Richard loved it. Like, he loves being engaged like that. He's very mischievous, which really fits in with our brand as well. Like we talk about like Maverick Mischief Makers and also Maverick Magic. So we actually had him. I ran a cacao ceremony this year in Necker, and we had Richard show up. He's like, "So am I gonna be hallucinating?" I'm like, "No, you'll be okay. Don't worry. You'll be fine." But I don't know if he was in for it or not, or I don't know if he wanted me to say yes or no, but he was in for it. Like, so he loves being engaged. He's very curious. And so for us, it's way beyond just like typical, right? So obviously Necker is an amazing backdrop, but it's like, all right, so what can we do there with the people that we bring as well? So we could have, let's say, normal keynotes or PowerPoints or whatever, but we don't do that. Like, we don't have PowerPoints. We have unique conversations that happen. We have ways that we actually engage and work on impact issues, and have an impact project that we always work on each year, because it's like, how do we use that brain power that's there, or the network, or the resources? And a couple of years ago, we had a really amazing project that came out of it. Was old World War II ship that we sunk, turned it into an artificial reef along with this gigantic kraken that was on top of the ship. So it made it a great art dive for people who had Burning Man art card makers that were part of the group that were there. And so I always believe the right people are in the right rooms, and they were actually the last people to sign up that year. And so it's just amazing to see what that was in this big year-long project that turned into it. So again, that growth, impact, and fun. And we have a lot of fun as well there. And so there's usually a theme that we have. And by the way, this is, for your experiences, what you're doing, adding a theme does help when it's not done in maybe a cheesy way, but we really integrate it and think of it as like an arc that might happen throughout the entire time. And then, what's the way that we welcome people with that theme, and then how do they leave, and how do they get transformed by what we do? And so this year was Once Upon a Time. So all the conversations were about stories, like the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we want to rewrite for our world, the stories that even eventually leading up to the story of a new Earth. And we brought in one of my favorite people, this indigenous wisdom keeper, amazing woman named Anita Sanchez, and she led this remarkable meditation, and then having people lean into what is the story of the new world that they wanted to play in. So you can really go this all the way through, and then our theme parties, we always have like one big theme party, and it was, can't remember what it was called, but I think it was just Once Upon a Time. And then Richard trusts us now, so we dress him up in whatever kind of makes sense for it. So we're doing this Q&A. It's me and my partner Sophia, my business partner, and she's dressed up in a fairy outfit, and I'm in a cosmic sloth outfit. I can't remember what I was dressed up as. Oh no, I was a cosmic genie. And then Richard is dressed up in a Peter Pan outfit. So, but the amazing part is we have, this one guy shows up. He was actually a last minute addition because his business partner couldn't go. And he's like, I've seen Richard speak 10 times. And he's like, you two have something magical going on, because, I've never seen him more engaged. It was just more fun. And so, all these things just lead into it. Again, when it's done from an authentic place.
Dude, that's so cool, man. I love the you point to like the story arc, the theme that really goes all the way through the entire event and experience, and it being like a real thing, not just like just naming it to name it, but like a real through line on the experience. And so cool, man.
Or it could be, a one night, it could be a party or whatever. Like, you don't have to feel pressured to make it the whole thing, but it's fun. It's creative. This is where, I get excited. This is where Sophia, who's our chief experience officer, gets super excited. So we love playing with that. Is like, it's almost like you have a parameter, like a constraint. And then it's like, all right, how do we make it really fit into it? And not only fit into it for the theme and the experience, but for the transformation that we want people to go through, or the end result.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't personally gotten to go to your event yet, Necker, and I did get to go with a different group a few years ago, and I was just really impressed by the atmosphere there. And yeah, it's remarkable. So anyone listening to this, I highly recommend, if you have it on your bucket list, reach out to Yanik and have a conversation and figure out how you can get yourself to his next Necker event. When is the next one, Yanik?
March of 2024.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, we'll be sure to include information on our show notes here so people can find you. And what is the best way, though, Yanik, from you? What's the best way for people to learn more?
Yeah, so if you're a 7, 8, or 9-figure entrepreneur, Maverick1000.com, you can check out that group. Evolvedenterprise.com is about the book, or Amazon has a couple of my books on there too. It's usually a good way of just getting to know what I'm about and what's happening.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And speaking of your books and journal, I actually got your journal right here in front of me, the Cosmic Journal, handwritten, illustrated by you. And really cool that you wrote this in 108 days. And I told you in the green room, I read this in one sitting. And
yeah, it's amazing. Stick it in front of your chest or something. On the green screen, it doesn't show up.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're just disappeared into
There we go.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, this was an incredibly fun project. It was just 108 days, every single day of illustrating a journal page without really, knowing what it's going to turn into. Right. So every single page is a hand drawn, hand illustrated page, and then on the left hand side is a little prompt or space for you to journal. And then one of my friends who I showed it to, because it started becoming like an oracle for me. I'd be like, after day 50 or 60, I'd like open it up and like, oh, what do I need to know? and it was just really powerful. And then after I was done with it, one of my friends was like, I'll pay to publish this thing. I'm like, okay. And then it ended up just taking on a life of its own. And then I got a meeting with the president of Hay House and retracing. He's like, I've never seen anything quite like this. And they fast tracked the contract for that and a set of Oracle cards. And it's been fun. It's been just an amazing project that it's really been impactful for so many people.
Sorry, I'm muted there. Really cool read, and for our audience, I highly recommend pick up this journal. It's just one of the most creative journals tools I've ever gone through in my life. It literally just my wheels are spinning with so many neat ideas and going through this, and it's illustrated like really well. So I highly recommend. We'll include a link to the show notes here so people can pick up a journal. And then Yanik, you have these cool cards, these Oracle cards. You mentioned it briefly, but can you tell us a little bit more about them, and then we can even pull a card here.
Okay. Yeah, let's pull a card. So there's 55 cards, 44 of them have journal prompts in them. And then 11 of them are these cosmic Q&As that you would actually have back and forth with your right hand and your left hand with a certain archetype. And so they're really designed kind of as they don't, you can use them with the journal. You don't have to use them with the journal. They're almost more approachable than the journal. I call the journal your galactic instruction manual that you were missing when you were born to fulfill your destiny here. And then the cards are just more of like leaning into what is your mythic role here, and then what's next on it. Like, how do you, like, so anytime that you have a question about how to highlight your destiny or how to step into that, the cards are really great for that. So yeah, let's pull a card, and that'll be maybe a homework assignment for people listening to this. We'll have a prompt for them.
All right, cool. So I just shuffled the deck. Do I just pull a random card from the deck?
Yeah, shuffle the deck. Yeah, let's take one breath together. Let's just get centered.
All right.
Just breathe in deep.
Okay.
Connect here. All right. Yeah. Go ahead and pull a card when you're ready.
Deck's been shuffled. I'm just going to take one right off the top here.
All right.
And I got the 38. You will only see me the way by making the way. You only see the way by making the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So just hold that in front of your head so that people can see that. Or there you go. All right. So I'll read it out, and then I'll give you the prompt for it.
Give us
You only see the way by making the way. There are no more well-marked trails to travel anymore. All institutions, organizations, and establishments are in a state of creative destruction. The safe route or the right way to build your life, your resume, your business is over and done. If you've received this card, it's time for you now to walk the pathless path, leading with love. Rejoice. What a time and space to be alive, taking part in nudging forward the next era of evolving human consciousness. You volunteered to be a torchbearer, leaving guideposts for others as you move ahead with joy as your GPS. So you can only see the way by making the way. And then there's a cosmic catalyst, which is a prompt. So it says, what did I volunteer for down here in service of evolving myself and the world? So a little journal prompt for everyone was, what did I volunteer for down here in service of evolving myself and the world? There you go.
That's the question.
Yeah.
All right. Something to think about. Awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate you being a guest on our show today. And as we wrap up today, do you have any closing comments for our audience?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say is like have some fun with it, right? Like whatever you're creating with your experience, I think we can get really wrapped up in like the stress of like how many people are there, how many units am I selling, all that stuff. And yes, you want to pay attention to that, but honestly, make sure that you're also having some fun, and because your audience is going to appreciate that, you're going to appreciate it, the team's going to appreciate it. I mean, we used to do stuff just to entertain me or entertain our team by like the pranks that we pull on the speakers or whatever. Like, so I remember one speaker, because underground, we'd have a lot of like first time speakers, and she'll probably want to kill me, but she was super petrified to speak. I'm like, oh, don't worry, it'll be fine. And it's 400 people or whatever it is. And I'm like, it'll be fine. And then so like 30 seconds into her speech, the lights go out, which is on purpose. And then we have a spotlight on one of our Maverick members who's in a Speedo, which is a story for another time. And there's that what is that song is like wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And then she's like, oh my God, because she knows the guy. She's like, oh, this guy, and then it's like the spotlight goes to someone else who's in a Speedo, and he's like, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And then like there's literally an entire flash mob that comes and gets in there. There's like a bunch of boas and all sorts of stuff that we're just like messing around with her. And like imagine like, this as this first time speaker, like this massive thing. And then just as quickly everyone disperses. And she's like, what the hell just happened? So for me, that was hilarious. And for the audience. So, have some fun with it and enjoy, but it also it adds to everything. So
yeah, that's one heck of a pattern interrupt there. Did she ever give up? Did she end up giving her speech or just?
She gave her speech. She was like completely befuddled for a little while. She wanted to kill me.
Dude, thanks so much, man. Yeah, have fun with it. That's my takeaway here. It's, and especially from a sales perspective, I work with a lot of clients, and it's important to know your numbers, know the metrics, and have that. And energetically, like when you're having fun, things just tend to work out much better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thanks again, brother, for being a great guest on our show. I appreciate you so much. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and call it a wrap.